let's talk about Kyle Shanahan as a leader. Some people have questioned, is he a leader of men? Is he really a head coach? And his camp's rebuttal, his supporters' rebuttal is, well, his team plays for him. What team plays harder than the 49ers? And a couple of years ago, there was that stat, like every team that faced the 49ers lost the next week. Every single team. Yeah. Because the Niners were so physical and violent, and they played harder than everyone else. And it was just win or lose, you were not going to win the next week after you played the Niners. They're not that team anymore. And effort has been an issue for this team since last season. Yeah. And, you have a lot of players in this team who've been with Kyle since the beginning. They've grown up with Kyle. They've been listening to Kyle's meetings for 8 years. Is it possible that his voice, his message is growing stale in year 8?
Well, it's not about his message. It's about the how it sticks. Anybody can talk, right? But you got to have lieutenants on your staff that actually carry out the message, right? That evangelize what you say, right? Because if I get in front of a room as a coach, which I have, and I lay out exactly what I want or exactly what I expect or what's going to happen, when I leave the room, the natural reaction of everybody in the room is going to be like, so do you believe him? Is he serious? How did you feel about that? Right? And you're going to need somebody, you're going to need boots on the ground to carry out the echo of that message to say, you're damn right he was right. And now let's get out here and do exactly what he said. Let's carry this out. That was D'Amico Ryans. That was Robert Saleh. That was Chris Kubiak. Chris Kubiak with the Saints?
Clay
Kubiak. Right.
Yeah.
That was Mike McDaniel. Right. These are all of the younger guys on this staff. That was Wes Welker. Right. These are the Johnny Holiday. These are the guys that understood that Kyle's message, however flawed it may be, right, it automatically needs to be followed up right away. And that's leadership, right? And I feel like there have been a lot of gaps in Kyle's message to the team, mostly because I feel like a lot of his message is, I'm always right. And that's a horrible premise to start,
because
with
over 8 years there's going to be so many examples of him being wrong. I feel like when this team was younger, when Bosa was young and Warner was young and Kittle was young, they would look up to Kyle like,
he's a wizard.
This is the most interesting football meeting I've ever been in, and all we have to do is execute, and it's like a cheat code. He's giving us the answers to the test. This is easy. I don't think they look at him that way anymore. I mean, they're in their 30s now, a lot of them, and I bet a lot of them feel like they know what Kyle's going to say before he says it. And there's the built-in skepticism of like, dude, we've been listening to you for 8 years and executing, and it hasn't worked, and there's a lot of people that feel like your plan is flawed, and maybe privately we kind of wonder too.
They've seen it enough. And really what it is how can I put this? Like self-awareness. If you're wrong, the room feels it. And some of the best things you could ever do when you're wrong is just a cop, right? Accountability. Hey man, this one's on me. Going back to the drawing board. I'm the same guy. Nothing's changed. Just give me some time. I'll be back. But when you see the constant deflecting, and the constant lack of accountability of always it being somebody else's fault or getting a bad break, the human element takes over, and people are going to start noticing like, all right, bro, like not for nothing, you are the head coach. Like, what is it always going to be on us? I mean, think about it. If Kyle is Kyle's the head coach. So if this team is losing right now, you are the direct reason why they're losing. But how many times has this defense had to bail out this team? Right? There's always these individual factions of the team that bail out the entire team, right? Like Brock Purdy, in a sense, has had his own cross to bear with bailing out this team when they were riding high and nothing could be done. And they move with so much process and purpose. But after a while, Kyle's going to have to be the reason why we pull ourselves out of a hole, not just the reason why we're going to blow a team out today. And I think that's the only confidence that they've ever seen in him when he front runs.
Also, I would argue that this attitude, like his attitude of not taking accountability, it's never his fault because he's inherently the best or one of the best, and he's proven it. So he's above reproach. He's doing a great job no matter what happens, win or lose. And when you question him after a loss, a big loss, he looks at you like, "Who do you know who I am? Like, I am universally respected." If I were like, that's his attitude, and I think that's the attitude of key members of this team. Nick Bosa, it's never his fault. He's above the defensive coordinator. Like every week, there's a zone read that goes to his side that he doesn't defend, and afterward, he's just rolling up his sleeves. Yeah, it wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. It was not my fault. And I think there's a lot of that on this team, like just passing the buck to someone lower on the totem pole until you're blaming special teams.
Oh, 100%. I don't think that there's ever been like any like full-faced accountability outside of like, hey, this is not working. Not this play, but this whole thing is not working, and we need to change gears. I don't think that Kyle's message is really reaching the new guys. I think it worked for the older guys that actually didn't really know what they knew about football. That's the thing about talking to rookies, man. It's like they don't know what they know, right? So you come in and give them this process of, I know every answer. We're going to show up to the game, and I'm going to tell you exactly who we're going to exploit and how we're going to win this game. And what happens is that you teach these guys how to follow you really well, but they don't know how to win on their own. Right? They don't know how to go out there and just make it happen, where Kyle just calls plays and he's like, hey man, you guys know how to audible out of this stuff. You know what the rules are teaching you that we put you on. Work it, massage it right here on the field. I'm not going to give you every answer. I think Kyle thrives on having every answer because I don't know, he's a little insecure.
There's a select group of people in this organization that are absolutely above reproach, and I think that doesn't set the right tone. Like Tom Brady was never above reproach in New England. He wanted to be treated like everyone else, but Kyle's above reproach. Bosa's above reproach. Trent Williams is above reproach. Kyle Trent Williams gets ejected from a game. Kyle Juszczyk is above reproach. Like if a new coach were to come in and try to set a different culture, I have a feeling he would trim the fat there. He would want younger players who are more accountable as opposed to these older players who are extremely rich and feel like they're above it all.
Well, look at the cachet that this team and this regime has given these players, right? George Kittle's the best tight end in the NFL. Nick Bosa is class personified as the best edge rusher in the NFL, right? Deebo Samuels gets looked at as Weapon X, right? But by themselves, you're waiting on these guys to actually live up to the name, right? Trent Williams, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious, and this is great for clicks. But Trent Williams didn't make All-Pro until he got here. Trent Williams didn't have a first-team All-Pro until he got here. And his leadership was spotty in Washington, even to the point where the 49ers kind of saved his career. He had been out of football for an entire year before the 49ers had came through. And it's rich to me how all of a sudden we've been like conditioned into accepting what we do on the offensive line, for an example, right? But if you look at it, that's not what Kyle inherited. Kyle inherited Joe freaking Staley at left tackle, okay? All right, they went out and got Laken Tomlinson, who was a former first-round pick at guard, okay? They went out and got Mike McGlinchey. Even though he's an imperfect vessel, we know Mike McGlinchey was not good, but they went out and got him in the first round. So all of this stuff that they're doing now where they kind of like move the goalposts and try to act as if we don't value certain things, it's bullshit. It's bullshit because that's not what made you good in the first place, right? And a lot of our standard is what they're eroding at year after year after year, where it's getting fans into believing like, well, what would we do without Kyle Shanahan? Dude, we had one of the best offensive lines in the league before Kyle Shanahan got here. We're one of the toughest teams in the league before Kyle got here. And look at us now. We don't even run inside run during practice. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to understand when, nothing stays the same.
I just don't like the culture that this team has become. And I think, again, Kyle sets the tone and Bosa exemplifies what it is because he's the most unfiltered player on the team. He's the highest paid player on the team. And yesterday in the locker room, first question he got, he's starting to annoy me. He comes out and he's like this. He's got his rolled up and he's like messing with his hair. Like he's very concerned about how he looks. It's like, dude, you're just another player on this team who lost last week. Like, why are you trying to look so pretty? So he's doing all this stuff. And question is like, hey, Evan Anderson got called up to the 53-man roster. What do you think of him? He's really made a lot of his opportunity. He's like, Oh, he did? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's good. He's really, it's like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, that's good. And then after the game, he said some boilerplate nice stuff after that, but he had no clue. And then after the game on Sunday, he's sitting there as Ricky Pearsall gives his first press conference as a pro. His first press conference is getting shot, 8 minutes. And he wasn't paying attention. He was on his phone. Someone asked him Bosa about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I wasn't paying attention. Could have lied.
He could have lied.
So to me, like, dude, like, are you even on this team? Like, do you care? Do you know what's going on? One more thing. Someone asked him about Malik Mustafa. And he's like, yeah, I had no idea during the game. But after the game, my dad said he was really flying around. It's like, you're on the field and you don't know what's happening behind you? Are you only concerned with what you're doing? I don't understand that, dude. But I don't understand that.
I can tell you. I can help you out. Kyle, after the loss, I believe it was the post-game press conference or the press conference when they had right before they started practice this week. There was a question to Kyle that asked him about picking up the blitz, right? Like clearly saying to Kyle, like, hey man, what have you seen when you guys are trying to pick up blitzes with your offensive line? Is there anything that you guys want to work on? And instead of Kyle just understanding what the reporter was alluding to, what did he do? He got in the weeds. Well, what do you mean by picking up blitzes?
That was yesterday. And that was Jake Hutchinson of KMBR, and there's partners with the 49ers. They're the official.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was such a weird response from Kyle, where it's like, dude, you know what he's asking you. What is wrong with you? Like, so what are you about to do? Are you really about to break out the grease board and try to go toe for toe with a reporter, bro? Come on, bro. He's asking you to highlight what we clearly see. Now, if you want him to get more specific, he could have said, hey, Kyle, your offensive line is ass. They can't stop the blitz. Brock Purdy's getting killed, and you look stupid as hell on the sideline.
And JT O'Sullivan's making fun of you on his channel weekly.
And there's people all over the place talking about how not only do you leave your quarterback out to dry, but your offense isn't sound, okay? You're a car with 3 wheels. It ain't sound. So would you have rather said that, Kyle?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, don't punch down. That really rubs me the wrong way, bro. You don't have to answer people that way.
Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't talk to anyone like that.